have equated it to that, right? But original scripture does not clarify that, does
So
not expand upon that.
if we're looking at it from a legal definition nowadays, it's almost difficult to talk about, but is anal sex between a man and a woman considered sodomy legally now?
I think it is, isn't it?
Ask Google.
I don't know.
I think
Don't ask Google.
sodomy
Trap.
now legally now is butt sex, period.
But
I thought in a legal sense it
historically-
was more than just that. I thought it was also
Blowjobs too.
yeah.
So, but we're going to agree then. So historically, let's eliminate that definition, and the Bible is not speaking about that. So some of you people are saying, no matter what happens in the bedroom consensually, the Bible does not condemn it if it's between a wife and a husband. Is that what we're saying?
I'm saying it doesn't matter to me what it says.
No,
I'm saying that-
I
I'm
know,
saying
I
that-
know to you, Flo, but I'm drawing a conclusion between those that.
Yeah,
are
no,
relying on the Bible.
I believe that what a man and woman do in their bedroom, sexually, is not restricted upon. According to, I don't see anything in the Bible that says that a husband and wife cannot do blowjobs or butt sex.
I concur with that. It does.
Yeah.
It's specifically about rape and homosexuality.
Yeah.
That's what the Bible condemns.
And the Bible is really specific about the husband having authority over the wife's body and the wife having authority over the husband's body in the Bible. And it doesn't say except for the butt.
Yeah, the butt is included.
Okay.
In the chat,
How
there's
about,
a
how about things like
God's okay. God's okay.
How about
with,
things like-
strapping one on and giving.
No,
it
God's okay with the
see,
marriage
that would be
being used
homosexual.
as a
No, it wouldn't.
vehicle for bonding and intimacy and expanding and not becoming a degenerate and sleeping with lots of different people, because that's degenerate.
Yeah, let's leave it with one. It's a really interesting topic. How about S&M? Whips, chains, handcuffs.
Oh, then that's a good time right there. You're in
Smack
my
a little booty up
Oh,
with my
shit
belt.
fire.
Yeah. What
I
will
mean,
the
it-
Bible say about that? Any word on that religiously?
I don't think so.
Isn't there something about how much you can beat your slave, in like Deuteronomy or something, or whichever book has the laws? And
Yeah, that's
Well,
one
it does tell you to treat your slaves fairly, but I don't think BDSM is he doesn't speak about it in the Bible.
And
it's
the part,
in. We got a green light on bondage.
yeah.
Right
So
on. That's all. That's
the parts-
consistent.
the parts of the Bible that address sexual immorality do it specifically with regard to sex outside of marriage.
Yeah.
So the only point that matters for my question, and we seem to have agreed, and I'm not a religious scholar, but those people that are on the panel that are agree, anything in the bedroom within a marriage and consensual is okay by God.
I mean, you're married.
Maybe if it doesn't include explosives and things that are like generally considered like bad or degenerate, just in general. But I mean,
I don't think if you dress your wife up as a demon and you fuck the demon, that would be a good idea. You know what I'm saying? Like,
There's got to be a line. Yeah, there has to
there's
be some
anything
sort of
about
line.
that. But I'm
I
just
don't know
saying,
that I think that's the line.
If you
maybe
dress
not
up
fried
like-
chicken in bed, no crackers, that kind of thing.
No crackers.
I'm gonna
Like
take
the ones
umbrage.
you eat.
I'm gonna take
Look.
umbrage with your statement that it's consensual, right? Because when you get married,
married,
that's
it is consensual. Yeah.
the
Mar-
marriage is the consent.
Yeah. Getting married is the consent, biblically speaking, because it says that you're not supposed to deny one another unless for an agreed amount of time that's committed to fasting and prayer. So if she's on her knees, she better be ready to please, or she better be praying.
So then that begs the question, and I saw a debate on this once, that SA can then not occur within the confines of a marriage. It's impossible.
Biblically, no.
Yeah, but you can reach a point where you're abusive, right? If you're not treating your partner with love and respect, and you are harming them physically,
Yeah.
then you're being abusive, right? But your wife shouldn't deny you at the same time.
Okay, I'm going to jump down, but I just want to say something about this panel. I love the way you guys are biting the bullet, like having an honest discussion and saying, "Hey, this is what it says." because a lot of the stances that you're taking, a lot of people would shy away from taking.
because
So
they're
thank you.
pussies.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Hold
the
on,
honesty.
Ocho, before you take off, I wanted like so you added at the end love and respect. Well, in Ephesians it says that you're supposed to love your wife as like your own flesh, right? You won't hurt your flesh. You nourish it, you feed it, right? You take care of it. So the line of abuse, the line of abuse, right? You wouldn't beat yourself, you wouldn't subject yourself to that that type of mistreatment. So
I do.
well, except you, Sasquatch. You like it when I pull the whip out. You like the cat of nine tails. Okay.
Good.
But
And
like
that's fair, right? There would be expectations on both parties, not just to submit, but also
Yeah.
to use that bond. How would I say, responsibly and in a moral fashion,
Respectfully, yeah, for sure.
respectfully. Yeah.
yeah.
I think there's too much credit put on respect, to be honest. There's a lot to be said for courtesy, but I don't have to participate in your delusions of your respect.
Well, we're talking about a man and a wife. We're not talking about random people on the fucking street.
True,
Yeah.
true. I'll caveat that. Sure, I'll give you that one.
I'm just not. I still don't understand how anybody thinks that this process of trying to use an institution and a book and decipher and piece together what we think maybe God would want us to do this. How is this process a better decision-making process than one that's less retarded and more straightforward?
Just describe one that's worked historically that's less retarded, and we'll discuss that.
Well, okay, so let's talk about one in which only parties with a reason to have interest in the question at hand have a say in it, right? So why would I ask the church what it thinks about whether or not my wife gives me head? They're not involved in it.
Well, it depends on whether you were raised Catholic, because if you were, they might be involved in it.
So that's a good question. That's a good question. Like, you just remember, like back in the day, they used to watch the first fucking, like to make sure that the marriage was it commensated or
Consummated.
The answer doesn't even matter now. Sasquatch just won the internet. We're going home.
But like, when did the church stop doing that? They're like, oh, we're not gonna watch these people fuck no more. We don't care. Then
But
why
really,
were you watching them fuck before?
But
Martin Luther, probably.
At no point the church. We'll just say the church and use it to lump in all the parties involved. They have no what's the legal term? Consideration. They have no consideration in this activity or the outcome thereof. They have. I mean, there's just no reason to think that they're in any position of knowledge or interest to have an answer for you better than your own answer for the question.
Wouldn't that apply to every scenario then, though, not just in the bedroom?
It would. Yes, it would. I was just walking it in slower. Pause.
Okay. What am I getting at?
Were you just going inch by inch?
In the Bible, it does say specifically. It does speak specifically out against homosexuality, like Glenn was saying, is that you should not lay with a man. Yeah, you should not lay with a man as you will with a woman. And there's passages against raping a woman outside of wedlock too, and against her will. That's about as far as the Bible goes, as far as I can fucking tell. So
it says even if you do that, you got to take them as a wife or pay a bribe. Right?
I'm fine. I'm fine with those conclusions. But as somebody who's not religious at all, I haven't raped anyone, and I've never had gay sex. So
then you're good in God's eye. You can go back to Christ.
But the question was, how do you get to the thought process that those steps make more sound decisions than just like me making the decision for myself?
Right. So you're assuming that most people have the capacity to be able to make decisions because you're basically imposing your own ability to do that on most people. And I don't think that most people are capable of making decisions for themselves because most people are NPCs.
Fair.
And so they need a framework like a church to make decisions for them.
Like, but that wouldn't that mean that statistically you're just as likely to be getting advice from an NPC as you are from being an NPC giving it to yourself?
Right, but it's an NPC using a framework that has been tested. As
frameworks are not necessarily positives. Even old frameworks can be bad as fuck.
Right, and I'm not appealing to tradition. I'm appealing to specifically the track record of Christian cultures creating robust, functional societies throughout history. Right, the actual application of Christianity has caused people to go forth and multiply and create stable family units.
I don't know that I agree with that assignment, because I think that we see humans forming civilizations and families regardless of the religious institution at hand. And I don't think it's obvious that, I mean, actually, if we look objectively at history, we can say that the appearance of Christianity coincided with the fall of the Roman Empire pretty smoothly.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. That Christianity is the thing that caused the Roman Empire to fall apart, because it was basically it was kind of like what the woke movement is for us. It was a totally foreign ideology that took over and destroyed their culture.
But wouldn't the logical takeaway be then that Christianity is actually, there's more evidence that it's bad for societies if we just take a simplistic look at it than whatever was there beforehand?
So, what would you say about in our culture? Do you think that in Western civilization currently, Christians as a whole are more successful than atheists?
I would say likely so. I would say, yeah, I'd say that it's a function of community, right? Anybody who's got an in-group that they will prioritize with business, that's going to be a big advantage.
Okay, so would you say then Christianity would not be successful over top of, say, I don't know, Freemasonry or any other in-group? Is there anything special about Christianity, or would you say it's just the in-group itself that creates the success we're pointing to?
So I would say that it is just the in-group itself, but as an outsider of that in-group, I prefer to be an outsider in a Christian society than in most other societies.
First of all, when dealing with the Freemasons, there's an awful lot of overlap between Christian and secularism and all that. That's not that you're basically speaking of the same in-group in two statements.
That's not entirely true. There's a lot of overlap with Judaism as well. There's Jewish Masons, there's Christian Masons, there's Catholic Masons. Yeah.
But there could be, and I see what Squatch is referring to, and I would try and think of another group that would point to the same example. Like, I don't know.
But to tighten it up, I guess, I think that the benefits of being a part of the group are the group itself and not specific to the tenets of the religion.
So what if we theorize that some of these Christian practices that have survived for 2,000 years have done so precisely because they are effective, and maybe more effective than the PTA group down the street who's 15 years old?
So what's effective for an institution may be ineffective for the individuals in it, right? So you got to figure out which level, who's benefiting and how that you're going to prioritize. I would say that societally, that for societies in general, religion is massively beneficial. Any religion, as long as it's broadly accepted by the population. I would say though that for individuals, the opposite is true. Religions tend to be detrimental to the individual. That's a strong word, but it prioritizes the group at the expense of the individual. So
let me ask.
That's true.
Let me ask one more question. Let me ask one more question, then I'm going to drop down. Do you believe in free market capitalism?
As a thing that has happened before, or as the general ideal direction that we should go in?
Is a free market system an efficient way to run an economy?
I want to say yes really bad, but it's not.
Well, how come not?
Because nature abhors a vacuum, and when there's a vacuum in coercion and force, it will get filled.
Would it be fair to say that in a free market economy that the best ideas tend to bubble up to the surface if they're not interfered with?
Yes, and I will agree that something very close to a free market society is definitely the ideal thing. But I think that I have to be honest and say that for the same reason utopian communism can't work, I think neither can a utopian pure free market society. Although I do think that that is the target we should aim for as humans.
Well,
Is there
it's
any
confirmed you're a
possibility-
commie, Flow State.
Yeah. Is there any possibility that Christianity has succeeded over the long term in the same way good ideas succeed in a free market?
I'll have to think on that. I don't have the answer for it.
Hold on,
There's
can you
more
say that
to it.
again one more time, old Joe?
What I'm saying is that some of the most brilliant economists in the world have said that a free market is actually tapping into something beyond our intellect. The reason that it works so well is because it's ingenious without being designed. The best ideas will almost necessarily percolate to the surface because the crowd will choose the best product for themselves. Could it be the
Like a
same
hive
for
mind
religion?
effect, right? Yeah.
Oh, so you're saying like when it
Exactly.
comes to Christianity, the different denominations and the different sects of Christianity has kind of had the same like effect?
What I'm asking is it possible that the success we're pointing to, which we've agreed in Christianity, is because it's simply a better idea than the other options?
No, I don't think that's how. I think that and I also don't believe in that premise that the best products are the ones that succeed in free markets, because adoption is not at all determined. In theory, that would be the case, but in reality, adoption rate and success is a function of marketing and sales. It's not a function of efficiency of the product. Because we have
in part
finite
it is.
attention.
In part it is in the short term, but in the long term, a bad product doesn't tend to last, does it?
Right.
And I'm
It
not
doesn't.
talking about 5 or 10 years. I'm talking about in the extreme long term, better products, better cars outcompete the horse and buggy. Planes, jets outcompete a prop-driven plane.
Right.
In the long term, better ideas win out, maybe not in the short term. Is it possible that it could be the same for religion?
It is possible. I don't think that it's likely.
Unlikely. Dogma interferes with the exchange of free ideas. Religion doesn't really practice the exchange of free ideas on its surface or behind the scenes. So I just don't see it actually functioning that way.
I don't.
But
I
the
don't
thing
know
about
that
the
that
free
addresses
market
the
economy
question.
is they're not talking about ideas, they're talking about an effective and efficient product that even the consumers don't understand is effective. It's just that it works in the end outside of any of their opinions or viewpoints. These things are chosen almost by default because they're better products.
Yeah, Sasquatch. I think you're arguing against the premise of what religion is, but what Joe's talking about is Christianity a better religion against all other religions because of how it affects and progenerates societies, right? And the
Yes,
evidence of
that's
that,
right.
yeah, and the evidence of that is clear because of it being one of the most popular religions in the world. However, Islam has actually got more devotees. I'm afraid.
Islam's up and coming. Christianity has the best new member acquisition model, which is everybody is welcome and equally welcome. And that was sort of novel at the time that Christianity was popping up on the scene.
What's the largest religion in the world right now? Is it some Eastern religion or
It's still
Buddhism?
Christianity.
Is it?
But
No, sir. You're all wrong. It's
No,
the
I think
flying
that's
spaghetti
wrong.
monster.
It's what?
Flying spaghetti monster.
Oh, for fuck's sake! No, I think it's Islam.
it's
I'm pretty sure
Christianity, but
there's-
not by a
there's-
large margin.
There's more devotees to Islam than there are Christianity. I'm pretty sure.
I don't think that, I'm not sure about that. But hey, gentlemen, fabulous discussion, man. Thanks for having me up. This is awesome. I'm going to sit down and listen.
Cheers, Joe. Thank you
Welcome,
for
old
coming
Joe. Thank you for coming up.
The Catholic, it's
It's Christianity at 28.8%,
Islam is the fastest growing. It's still not the largest yet.
25.6% is Islam. Yeah.
Those machine lies.
And Christians are fairly passive practitioners,
Yeah.
whereas
No.
Muslims are not very passive.
They're not passive. They're out there literally converting motherfuckers at the point of a sword. Like it's happening.
Convert or
So-
die.
Yeah.
Convert or die.
Exactly. They'll cut your hands off, and if that don't do it, they'll remove other parts.
Fun
So-
fact: I've started a religion and have baptized 2 members now. By the way, if anybody would like to join my religion, half the price on tithings, half the guilt.
Is it, are there any rituals that involve fellatio?
Only if you want to incorporate your own into your personal practice of it. But there's no formal rituals that like I'm not going to shove them down your throat if you get my meaning.
I mean,
It
unless
may
you
be
ask
that time. My
don't know,
fellow
you can talk
Europeans,
about
can I interest you in a crusade?
We don't have the numbers yet for that.
Oh shit.
Deus Volt.
Oh man. So with Christianity having a widespread, not widespread, but like the more prominent religion, this is the part that gets me. When it comes to like social issues like marriage and stuff, if Christians believe marriage represents the relationship between Christ and the church, why do they have an equal divorce rate to non-Christians or greater than non-Christians when they're supposed to set the example on what marriage is supposed to be like?
Because genes are more powerful than God.
Because the Christian orientation towards sin or the shadow self does not allow people to actually improve their own dark sides and shortcomings. It encourages them to reject them in search of perfection.
I don't.
That's assuming marriage is
even true.
perfection.
That's not even true. I mean, you're supposed to repent to God and to better yourself and to not sin any further. You're
That's what
supposed to
I'm
address
talking
those
about.
things.
That's what I'm talking about. It
correct
sets
it.
an impossible standard.
It's not an impossible standard. We all know
It is an
that we're
impossible
sinners.
standard to not sin. Every Christian knows that.
Well, yes, we all know that we're sinners.
Okay.
That is
So,
the standard: is to be a
The
sinner and to
standard
be
is
repentant.
impossible.
The standard is to be a sinner and be repentant. That is the standard.
So you're supposed to sin.
You can't help but sin.
And feel like shit about it.
Right.
That's
don't
the important
encourage
part.
About certain sins anymore. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't feel like shit about certain sins.
Right. It's particularly consider the ones against what is it that if you've lusted in your heart, that's basically adultery, like something like that, right?
This suffering seems to be built into the program.
Yes, of course. And that's not without merit. Suffering is quite a valuable human experience, a lesson, teacher, etc.
But if you just look at that one example, right, like committing adultery in your heart or whatever by lusting, that function is largely out of our control. We're all biological animals that have sex drives, right? So to a large degree, something like that is just encouraging people to condemn and reject and deny themselves on a very, very basic level.
If you're married, then shouldn't you try to not lust for other women?
You're
Is
not
that
married.
not a good thing?
You're not married in this scenario.
Okay, well, in that case, I don't see it as quite as applicable. What do you mean lustful? How is that adultery if I'm not even married?
It's sinful. It's not adultery. But lust in itself, even without marriage, is sinful.
That's what Dusty was saying.
He's correct as far as I've seen.
You guys want to welcome Family of
But you
God
just said he wasn't correct.
to the
Greetings, family.
What's up, family?
Hi, bud.
How's it going, guys?
panel. Doing well. You wanted to jump in on the conversation?
I was just listening for a little bit, and I saw that you guys were talking about Christian man and marriage, and I am a Christian man, and I am married. So
Do you still eat pussy?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Do I have to answer that?
Do you prefer
Yeah,
your
yeah.
pussy leavened or unleavened? I'm sorry.
How many bugs would you say?
Unleavened for me, sir.
Don't take any of these assholes serious.
Okay, let me.
They're all fucking with you.
I am pious.
I'm gonna ask him a question. Let me ask you this, family. Do you think the church has failed believers when it comes to speaking about sexuality and sex? And I mean, we know that it's bad if it's not married. That's wrong. But it doesn't really talk about, what's permitted within the marriage.
Well, I think that I think Christians and also people outside of that area, um, instead of separating, I think they like I don't look at a non-Christian or a Christian that gets divorced any different. I mean, we're all people. If you're a Christian or not, even just because you believe in God and you believe in the Bible doesn't mean you're not going to get divorced. And there's
That's true
people
because it's
who
not entirely based. You don't have control over it entirely. You can't force.
right,
So
right. So it's like I know you guys were saying, with this Christian thing, why are the numbers identical or even higher to divorce on
well, because
Christian
like
men?
if Christians believe that marriage is the physical representation, right, or mirrors the image of the relationship between Christ and the
In the
church,
church, yeah.
right, and if that's what it represents, then shouldn't they uphold marriage in that relationship to a higher standard, and would technically then have lesser divorces amongst all because of the sanctity of that relationship between Christ and the church that it represents?
No, I'm with you. I think that that should be the example that Christians should uphold and carry through their marriages. But we're all humans. I mean, there's no guarantee. You can be there's
We're all
marriages.
sinners. Yeah.
Yeah, there's marriages that both people are not Christians and they last a lifetime.
Yeah.
So but I know what you're saying. There should be like the blueprint. There should be our guides for a long marriage. But we're all sinners. We're all messed up. I'm
But
married.
do you think that's a cope? That's like a cope, like an excuse? Like, we're all sinners, we're all messed up. So I mean, like, fuck it,
No, no, I don't think so. I think that life does happen. If you're a Christian or if you're not a Christian, life does happen. And just because you're a Christian and you read the Bible, go to church, doesn't mean that which we call the flesh, doesn't take
Expected to be
over.
perfect.
And yeah, we're not perfect people just because we believe in God or believe.
Absolutely, I'm with you.
Speak for yourself, sir. I'm a YouTuber and I stayed at a Holiday Inn Express last night. So
Oh,
we
shit.
are the
It makes it
perfect
perfect.
Did you take the
Is this-
comforter off the bed first?
But
No, like,
at-
Here, did
But
the
at the
reason
same-
the reason why I say that is because, you know, if I'm looking at an example, because we hear a lot of the TradCon Christian community push marriage, right? But if the marriage rate is just a revolving door of divorce, then they're not a good representation of it. They shouldn't be telling people what they should do. If you're telling people get married to avoid sin, but then a lot of these people are getting divorced that are Christians in sin. So
yeah.
so then just to get married again to avoid sin again, just to get divorced to get
Yeah.
to
Let me ask you this. How many people do you know that wait for marriage? Wait.
To what?
Oh, I definitely didn't. I did not.
Oh, you
wait.
mean for sex? None.
Yeah, how many?
I've known a few.
I know
I've
one. Right
Your
now.
mom lied to you.
Hold
I'm
on.
not
No,
talking about my mom.
no, wait. I think you're all off base. I think it's him. He's the guy we know that waited for marriage.
I did. Yeah, I did. But
That's awesome.
my point is this. A lot of marriages, a lot of relationships, they don't move forward because of that reason. People don't think about
What reason?
the reason of giving yourself too early to multiple people, not waiting. And I know that for some people
No,
that sounds
no,
like
it's true because
sounds
statistically we
like
know that we know
sounds
statistically
gay
that
and the most sounds weird to do, but there's a consequence. There's always a consequence for anything that we do. There's good consequences, there's bad consequences. I mean, I'm talking to men here and women. We're not children. We
You
all
were,
know
and
this.
then she ruined
Well,
it.
now
Yeah.
we're
You
talking
say
about
that
it.
no, but you
the
know what, you're
You know-
right because we even have like even data that shows that marriage, like virgins that get married, tend to avoid divorce more than people that have premarital
Only
sex.
if
We
you don't
understand that.
But why?
for for the
Yeah,
culture.
so
and
answering
age,
your
right?
question,
That's a
Yeah,
there's a lot of
you're guy facting bad science at us with that.
yeah, there's a lot of Christians
well, I mean,
who
I'm just going off of what
before they became
CDC was saying.
Christians.
Yeah.
There's a
It's
lot of Christians that
because
before they
virgins who get married are typically younger and in more conservative societies that don't allow it at all. So once
Yeah.
you neutralize from those things, virginity doesn't really add a benefit. In fact,
Well,
I think that it's like 2 to 5 partners is the sweet spot, if I recall.
So
Well,
it's
my
a
point
correlation,
is-
not a causation.
Yeah.
The point is that a lot of Christians they had that lifestyle of sleeping around before they became Christians, and then they become Christians, they get married, and it doesn't last. Well,
Do you think that it's still like the spiritual baggage is still connected to them, and this is a consequence of
Yeah.
their sin?
I do.
I
I
think
do.
the
I do.
puzzle pieces don't fit together and they didn't know, and then they're stuck with each other and going, oh,
Yeah.
this is not working.
I think it's crazy. Okay. I'm trying to phrase this question so that people will be honest, but I don't think I'll get it there. Glenn, how much of the strange, sinful sex in your life do you regret? Like as a percentage from the hip? None of it, probably.
No, there's a few that like cause a whole lot of bullshit later on. Like there was a lot of consequences that I had to deal with.
He's got to think
You
about
know.
this, yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
but
like the sex itself, not so much.
not
But
so
give
much,
those
but after
giving
that,
it with those people and those relationships and what happened, all the drama in your life afterwards, that adds up, man.
So what I'm getting at though is that the narrative of having casual sex then taints your soul. I think it's completely bullshit, and it's dude speaking from a possessive, which like I get it, right? Like I don't want that either, but I think that we need to just be honest with ourselves and be like, look, we don't want somebody that's been run through because we're possessive, right? And it just is what it is. Instead of having
I don't like sharing.
I would say, if anything, it just shows that, like, one, there's a few things, right? Like, this person has been reckless to a degree, right? Like, the sense of recklessness, the risk taking. You know, they put themselves in situations that, you know, could be pretty detrimental. Like, could get a disease, you know, unwanted pregnancy, things like that. That, you know, just like, oh, this person doesn't, you know, really think. They just, you know, react to impulse.
If you have a body count in the triple digits, you're prioritizing sex over a lot of things, including some things that are important for long-term relationships.
Sure, but let's not move to the triple digits, right?
Yeah, can you guys stop condemning me, please? Thank you. Moving on.
Let's just deal with like a normal low double. Huh?
What is normal? Because I hear the average is less than 10, both for women.
Well, I don't
and
know.
men.
I hear that kids these days are having less sex than ever before.
Okay, you got to figure, like, a lot of this stuff is self-reported. A lot of this stuff is self-reported. Right? You know,
unreliable narrator. Yeah.
So men would exaggerate and women would.
Let me replace the word normal with modest. Let's just do modest, right? Like, you know, nothing crazy, but not a virgin.
Well, to me, modest is a virgin, right? I don't know. I only had a couple of partners before I got into a serious relationship.
No, you've never had a partner. Don't lie to us. We know that you.
Sir,
you know
he reproduces asexually.
You know shit.
Just kidding. I know that you've had a partner because I know that we fucked, right, Iodi?
He reminds me of my uncle, so like I'm just gonna say he's had like 5 partners and that's it. That's fine in my
So is this like a baggage, or is it just dissatisfaction? You know, once you've had sexual gratification, maybe you're not that compatible, or your new wife is not, you know, up to certain things, or vice versa, frankly.
Question.
I think it's like, when it comes down to it, it's the fact that, like, for Family Guy or Family of God, right? Was your wife a virgin too?
Yeah, she was.
Okay, so both of them have no prior experience, right? So their only experience is themselves, and they could learn with each other, and, you know, so they're not comparing sexual experiences with previous sexual experiences to each other. That's a benefit.
That's what it comes down to, isn't it?
I don't think that's like. I think that when we're sitting here considering the question at neutral, that's a thing. But I think that when you're actually having sex, you're not like comparing it to the last time you had sex. I mean,
no,
maybe it's just me.
I'm like, this girl just playing. I'm like, this girl sucks. I remember this.
Wait a minute. When
it has to be pretty bad.
So there you go.
I'm kind of in the moment because even the worst sex is better than like the best cheesecake, for instance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Cheesecake
don't
is really
think
good,
it's.
though.
I don't
Except
think
cheesecake's pretty good though.
The best sex is not really like. I'm really gonna.
Use your words. Use your
I don't
words.
know. Call you back, kick it with you again. I know I'm gonna run
I don't
into
think
you
it's the act
again. Like,
that damages. I don't think it's the act because I mean, sex is sex. I think it's what you bring with you spiritually by doing that multiple times. Yeah,
So you're saying
that's what
more like the
happens.
soul tie.
It's more of what happens to your soul, and then that carries on if you get married. That can carry on and somehow to be a bump in the marriage where it just gonna carry to divorce, maybe. I don't know.
Do you think
Uh,
that if you repent, let's say you bang like 100 chicks and then you repented, and then
it's
you went
it's
to
still a
you turned away.
spiritual.
Hold on. Hear me out. You repented. You're sinning no more. All right. Then you get married. You're celibate. You think that you're still going to be punished for your
It's
sexual
but
escapades, even though
it's
now
not
that
a
you repented.
but okay, punished. I guess you can say punished because it's a negative consequence of what you
Consequence,
did.
yeah.
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 Sometimes it's negative, but sometimes it's the type of sex you're into.
Hey, I mean, you gotta kind of make rules
The
together.
the
You got
the thing is the thing that most people don't really think about. They only think
What's your
about
safe word?
the physical. They only think about the
Oklahoma.
physical act
Yeah, they're
of
not looking at the
sleeping.
spiritual.
You're not looking at the spiritual. And
What are the
if
spiritual consequences?
you don't have to believe in God to really kind of understand that we're not just physical. We're
Yeah.
spiritual as well.
I
And
agree.
there's something spiritually happening whenever two people get, together to have sex. There's something spiritual that we can't see with our eyes, but it manifests over time. It can manifest 10 years from that moment, it can manifest 5 years from that moment.
How do
So
you know?
how do you know?
How do you know that what you just said? As a
Because
young
if
man who's also been with one woman, how do you have any idea what you're talking about?
well, you look at the statistics, look at the numbers.
So you're learning about personal experience through a book at that point, correct? And you've chosen the Bible?
Or he's looking
No,
at the effect of society where we're at
right,
now, and
exactly.
he's like, okay, based off of what
Because
I see out everybody else is
What does it?
struggling with, I'm
And
not
surely-
struggling with it. So
Surely there are members of your parish or your congregation who have been through such experiences and talking about that kind of shit too, right?
What? Wait. What does any of that have to do with the Bible, though?
well,
Yeah, I was
I'm-
wondering if this doctrine was based on scripture. I meant to ask that earlier.
no, I mean I haven't even
Yeah, that's
talked
why I'm
about
here.
Bible.
Thanks.
I haven't
Yeah, he
even
hasn't
talked
even
about
brought up
Bible or
religion.
scripture. I'm just saying in spiritual aspect.
That wasn't
How
my
do you?
Sasquatch that said that, right? Who was it?
Yes.
It's Christianity that's instructive, though, right? So, where are you? What
Correct.
source are you looking to for you want to do God's will and you want to adhere to Jesus's teachings, right? So, how do you connect all that to these theories on marriage?
Not necessarily. What I'm thinking more about, or what I thought before, was consequences.
Track
yeah.
consider.
Not
That
so
actually-
much. Not so much
Sounds
that I'm
like
gonna
cultural
be more.
Christianity.
Not so much that I'm gonna be more holy than the next person
yeah,
because
he's just
I'm doing that.
he's talking about more
It's
like best practices, like
exactly.
it's the less sexual activities that you get in with multiple people. Sure, you may have more experiences, but the experiences comes with consequences, and the less consequences you're bringing into a marriage that could be potentially detrimental to the union is what he's getting at.
Well, no,
Do you
no
guys-
offense, but that sounds secular.
It is.
I think that he's just using like best practices, like the concept.
Same.
Do you guys think that sometimes it can be beneficial to have premarital sex or casual sex?
No.
In some sects of Christianity, they would say as soon as you
Is there?
have sex, you've become one flesh. Like-
Well, I've
Right.
never heard that. And that
God,
makes no
yes.
sense according to the history of Christianity and say like stoning the woman, right? Like I think the Bible demonstrates that that's not the case.
No, I know. I'm saying some sects of Christianity believe as soon as you have sex,
Well, we can ignore them. They probably talk to snakes.
they might. But
but if you look at the numbers, I mean, if there was no difference, if there's no difference, if the numbers weren't completely off the chart of people who have no belief, they can have as much sex as they want, and they still are very successful in marriage, and divorce is really low. If that was the case, then my point would just crumble because it wouldn't make sense.
you're using that like being virgins at marriage is the overall difference, because you can't say like, well, being religious, because there's plenty of Christians that have a horrible divorce rate, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. Your point does crumble with the numbers because Christians have higher divorce rates.
Yeah, but
he's speaking about virgins that are Christians.
Yeah,
that's what he's talking about. He's talking about very specific
for that.
Okay, I'll ask this: who's known any virgin Christians?
Who says they're Christians though? That's
one. I know one right here on the panel.
I've known several.
And I know a couple more. And actually, I have 2 friends that are still virgins right now, and they're engaged. So
it's common if
they're not married yet.
It's common if you're in areas that aren't like large cities, like if you go to smaller areas where people are normal and not degenerate.
Would you consider Southern Illinois a small area with nobody around and a lot of cornfields?
Yes.
That's where I live.
Yeah, okay.
Small towns are the fucking worst. Those people are not moral and non-degenerate.
You mean people who claim to be Christian knows what that means?
Well, yeah, but you're not in the Bible Belt, right? You're in Illinois, right? So I mean, it's not the same.
Is Illinois in the Bible?
No, in the Bible Belt. You're up there. You're up there where there's
specifically said Southern Illinois.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's not.
Is there a part of Southern Illinois that's in the Bible?
That's the Bible caller, right? That's the caller.
I'm talking about.
Is there a
my
part
specific...
of Southern Illinois that is in the Bible Belt so that I can know for future reference?
Sounds like a job for Google.
Answer me.
No, it's not. So what I'm saying is,
well, then what the fuck are you talking about?
I'm trying to talk, but you keep interrupting me because you're a woman.
Oklahoma.
Word. See, at least somebody was.
That's the safe word.
Exactly.
Are you done? Are you done?
Are you done being wrong and not paying attention and then backtracking on it?
I'm
probably not.
I'm trying to say stuff, but you just like keep talking.
Oh my God, you're saying nothing right now, but go for it.
Okay, so what I was talking about was my cultural experience specifically in the Bible Belt, where I have known several people who were virgins when they got married because it was part of their Christian faith. It was a deeply held religious belief that they do that, right? And you know, there's nothing abnormal about that. It's perfectly natural.
Were both of them virgins or just
one? Yeah, both of them.
Both of them.
Yeah, and it's usually like, you know, tightly knit, you know, church communities.
I have some receipts backstage. If Glenn will allow me to present some receipts backstage.
Of course. Hold on, it's not your dick, right?
No. It's not nearly that long. This is the Bible Belt, madam. And as you can see, Illinois is nowhere near it.
That's why I asked him, is Southern Illinois part of the Bible Belt? And he said yes.
I'm kind of in the Bible Belt. That's not a belt at all.
He said yes. I didn't say yes.
I didn't say yes.
Regardless, this is a non-point.
Somebody said yes.
Yeah, it's a non-point. I just like interrupting conversations. It's fun.
CaucSquatch, by the way, I like your shirt, man.
Why? I think the entire idea that people who enjoy sex are degenerate, while the people who condemn it are not degenerate. I think you have those things backwards.
Hold on. Can you say it again, Phil?
I think that people who enjoy sex, while yes, anything in excess can be an issue for sure, but people who have who enjoy sex without all the religious or puritanical hangups, they are far less degenerate in their worldview than people who think sex is bad, unless small caveat, right?
Oh, yeah. See, I'm about to address that right
man.
now. Actually, I was going to ask that in the chat right now.
I don't think sex is bad. It's just when do
There you
you?
go. That's my whole point.
I think it's more than a physical act. When people
When you were
when they look
17
at
or
sex,
18 years old, were you saying that? Because I highly doubt any male.
He was a virgin.
He was a virgin. Come on, you got to get with it. That guy was a virgin.
Oh,
When he
okay.
got married.
Oh, I came in late. I apologize. So yes, he probably sticking with the same thing. Okay,
yeah,
my bad.
I got married at 29 years old, and I was still a virgin.
Congratulations, man. Congratulations. That must have been
my
hard.
wife,
What's
she
your
was
favorite sex
24.
toy shop?
She was 24 and she was a virgin too. So I don't know.
But what you brought up, Powder Dusty, about the soul tie things though, like that's not in the Bible.
Huh?
The soul ties?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the soul tie thing. I mean, I assume when people say believers, they mean Christians, and I assume evenly yoked means
soul tie? I don't know what you're referring to.
Christian and non-Christian. When you said that you said soul is tainted. You said that was your word actually. Soul will be
sex.
tainted depending on how many partners you have. There's no such thing.
Oh yeah, okay, I got you.
Well, yeah, there's no such thing. I'm just saying there's no such thing. You could have 1,000 partners or 0 partners, and you still need to be forgiven by the Lord. He'll clean your sins, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, I entirely reject that premise. I think it's self-deprecating and useless. I'm not trying to be insulting with that. That's how I viewed the entire original sin paradigm. I also think you can make a solid case that it's actually blasphemous, because even Genesis says God created everything and then said it was good. And so now here we are sitting around going, no, it's all bad, and you need to sacrifice God himself in order to not stay bad. It just doesn't make any sense on any level.
Well,
I put a poll in the chat. I want to see what people think.
Right. Well, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking. I'm talking about the fact that you're a sinner. Nothing to do with original sin. You do bad things now. We all do bad things after we're born, not before we're born. We all need to be forgiven for the things we did after we were born. Is what I'm talking about. And that's just a reality.
According to biblical sin.
If we actually, not even by the people we harm. There's lots of people I've harmed. They haven't forgiven me, and I haven't asked for it, and it doesn't matter.
Yeah, they actually don't matter. What matters is your Lord and Savior, not them, actually, yeah.
He's not my Lord and Savior. I don't need a Savior, because I'm not inherently bad, is what I'm saying.
Same.
That worldview is toxic.
Well, okay, that's the point. We don't agree, yeah.
Word. Well, Dusty,
Sure,
I got to tell you.
Right, I would say everything you're saying about me, I would say. Okay.
So you said you're not a bad person. You're not bad. Is anybody good?
We're all created in God's image, and God said it is good when he saw us, and God is perfect. So if we're made in the image of perfection by perfection, and then it follows that it's absurd for us for the Christian paradigm and the need for salvation.
Yeah, but you know that.
I'm just as God made you, sir.
Perfect God.
Hold on, you guys. One at a time.
You know that was before we were made perfect, before the fall.
So only Adam and Eve were made perfect. Everybody else were fucked up.
If there's only perfection that exists, how could non-perfection come in?
Wait a second. Wasn't there a Lilith before
Eve.
No, there was no Lilith.
Are you sure?
What is perfection? What is perfection?
You know what? Lilith is only
What is
mentioned
perfection,
in Isaiah, like as a prophecy, and it's like a spirit of Lilith. It's not.
I thought Lilith was actually
The spirit of Lilith. Where from did the spirit of Lilith come from, if not before Eve?
See, before
Flat earthers, probably.
No, I got some flat earthers I argue with.
So here's the question that I have in the prompt. Okay. I want you guys to tell me what you guys think, panel. The question is, did the Christian purity movement fail to properly addressing sex, and that's why we have the hookup culture?
I just dropped a bomb of a statement in your panel, by the way.
Did you take a deuce?
Yeah, he likes to do that a lot.
You should say it on mic, though. Say it on mic anyway. Say it on mic as well.
Did it get stuck in Sasquatch's dinglebeardy?
By the way,
I just want to ask you one question there, Anson.
Yep.
Do you have a problem with shit sticking to your fur?
Well, you know, if the ladies would let me eat more ass, I might.
oh,
You gotta
Oh,
shave
man.
your sanitary. You gotta shave your sanitary.
So, family of God, do you think like the church did a good job with the purity movement?
No.
No, I don't. I mean, the church is teaching a lot of things that it's not helping.
Yeah, I think that actually, if anything, the fact that like they taught that it's sinful to even think about it, you know, and then when it's like, okay, you're married now, go ahead, do your thing. Like you've already conditioned them to be like, oh no, sin or sex is sinful and yucky and dirty, and then now you're like, okay, yeah, you can do it. Like it's
Yeah,
If you're
I think if the
programmed for-
church,
well, yeah,
I
that's
think if
like
the
my mom told me when I was little. She's like, don't, well, not little, but like 14, 15. She's like, don't do it. She told me my best friend. She's like, don't do it. She's like, it
Yeah.
hurts. And if
it's
I
like that
find out
thing
when
that,
you were
you know,
doing
you
it,
say,
I'm gonna sew it up shut.
it's like
And
that
we're like,
thing, it's like that thing
Wow.
you say, look, don't look at the
your mom
hole,
said she was gonna sew
and then you
yours up
leave the
orange
child by
juice.
himself, and the child looks at the
Oklahoma.
hole.
yeah,
I mean, if you say,
Rock.
you know, don't look at the hole because maybe that person is going to be a little bit more careful looking at the hole. But if you say don't look at the hole and you just say, oh, it's bad, of course, the human body is going to be like curious and wanting to look at the hole. I think the church has for the most part failed in explaining, instead of just saying, hey, sex is bad, or instead of,
yeah,
you know, saying, you know,
That's fair.
if you have sex you go to hell. No, explaining that there's that sex is not just a physical act, that there's something spiritual happening. And I think if the church did that, more people will be thinking not just committing the act physically, but what happens spiritually that can bring a big consequence for the future.
I think the church succeeded.
Yeah, but you'll be able to tell, right?
The church succeeded because the church is not concerned with your individual well-being. If you instill a sense of guilt and shame into a person,